We're listening to Well Met, a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Well met.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 24 of Well Met. We're a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com. I'm John, I'm pushing the buttons this evening, and with me, as always, is first from Saskatoon, Canada. It's Kevin Hovdestad. Hey Kev, how you doing, man?
Good, John, good. And like I said in the pre-show, I'm always so thankful that you do our very formal, very professional introductions, because I am not qualified to do that. I would make it a joke every week, so thank you for doing what you do.
I think I've only really messed up the buttons, like, really hard that 1 week, like episode 9, where it's like I missed the same button like 4 times at the end of the show.
Was that the week that you were cutting me off? Every time I tried to talk, you're like, "Heh, this guy's text."
Yeah, that was the one.
Really good.
Yep.
That was really good.
It was totally the one. Yeah. Oh, we've come a long way. Look at us. We're on video now and all that kind of stuff. Next, all the way from Kansas City, it's J.R. Cook. Hey, J.R., how you doing, man?
Hey, John. So for you guys that missed the splash screen, John and Kevin, while that music's playing, are sitting there dancing. You couldn't see it. And I wish I would have had like that recorded here so you could all just see them dancing to the music as I'm sitting here face palming.
Yes.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I mean, we're totally... I mean, I have all these buttons to push. There's no way I can be dancing and, you know,
I'm studying, reviewing my material. Like, yeah, no.
Although...
No, next week, I'm making sure I'm going to record it.
All right.
All right. We're like
you guys will be prepared
Sasquatch.
for that, not do anything. But
We're like Saskatoon Sasquatches.
I'll be sitting here, like, thoughtfully stroking my beard, and yeah, no.
I'll be like gazing off into the nether. All right.
I will get it one of these days.
One of these days.
All right, guys. Well, hey, welcome to episode number 24. We've got an incredible show heading up for you guys. We've got the last round of kind of TGT reviews before our analysis starts to become reality. We've got a pretty good track record on the show so far with calling goods and bads and new things coming out. So we're going to see how well we did. And we're also going to talk about later on in the show, kind of giving you guys the Grand Tournament top 10 most impactful cards. So stick around for that because that's going to be huge. But first, before we go into anything, let's talk a little bit about how we did on the ladder or Tavern Brawl or whatever you ended up playing this last week. Jared, let's start with you.
I you know, right before a new set's release, I don't really like playing the current meta. Because I'm like, man, I just want the new shinies. So when they released the Tavern Brawls this week with getting the new cards, that's what I ended up playing this week.
All right.
Because I want to see how the new cards work. Even though you only had, you know, the 2 classes, you only had a limited set of the new cards. You at least got to play around with them and see how, you know, maybe they're going to play out. Because I don't think you get that feel of how those cards are really going to work until you actually get to play them, right?
Yeah, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I thought it was a pretty good Tavern Brawl. I don't see it being very good after TGT gets released, so I hope they don't re-release it again, but I do hope that they do this with future expansions.
Sure. What if we just got a Goblins versus Gnome Tavern Brawl next week from just the cards from last expansion? Okay, no, that's a no.
I wouldn't mind
right.
seeing I wouldn't mind seeing a classic one.
So violent,
like old school Hearthstone.
That's true.
None of the.
You know what I would love to see, and I think it would be super cool if they had like the stuff on hand to do it, would be a retro broken card Tavern Brawl where they bring back all of the cards that they've since nerfed really
Good
heavily.
Old starving. Well, which nerf would you go back to for Starving Buzzard?
Well, I think you go way back. I think you go back like kind of like late alpha broken, like Ramp Warlock, Miracle Rogue, the original Buzzard Unleashed, like all of that back in play, and just like you get a random one of like 3 or 4 classes with all the busted cards that are just totally unfair.
I would totally play Spell Powered Druid.
What
That
if
was
you?
so-
Oh yeah, or man, that was yeah.
What if you
okay.
got a
There was some stuff.
busted deck choice, right? So it's like you could either play like season 3, mid-range hunter with like the broken unleash the hounds, or season 5 miracle rogue, or
Where literally every top ladder
the-
player played
the-
Miracle Rogue, all of them.
right, the handlock with the double Leroy, or like the Leroy double faceless, power
Before the Leroy
overwhelming.
nerf.
Before the Leroy, like all those strong decks, and just to see, Grim Patron now, and just to see all the decks like clash and see who is the strongest one. That's what I want to see.
Go back to the old rogue where your hero power actually increased the power of the
weapon
dagger.
damage.
And then the old school, this is our town scrub 2-3 and 2-1. Best turn
busted.
1 coin in the game.
Yep.
So great.
I love it. How'd you do on the ladder this week, Kev?
I mean, honestly, I am kind of with JR. The last little while before a new expansion, things always seem to just go a little bit haywire. Ladder has been crazy and has shifted drastically. Like, I know we just finished talking, not 2-3 weeks ago, about how crazy we're seeing this like heavy control meta. Everybody's playing very consistent, like dominant late game decks. And now it's like the top tier decks are like, again, aggro paladin and hybrid hunter and demon zoo, and like everything is just race for the finish line. Everybody's running silences, taunts are useless, damage is through the roof, combo is all over the place. I played a game just earlier today against a patron warrior who dumped 45 damage onto an empty board with a crazy frothing combo, and like that's what's happening. That's all that's happening. I don't know. So I'm sitting at about rank 6. I've been up and down between 8 and 6 pretty much all day the last couple of days. My goal at this point is just to get over the rank 5 hump because of the new ranked rewards. So I have the chest for 6, but I want to see that chest for 5. And then I will probably spend a little more time on Hearthstone after we get all the TGC stuff tomorrow, because I honestly spent a lot of my time trying to get back to rank 1 in Heroes. So
That's fair. Well, I kind of did the same thing as you. There's definitely a lot of tryhards on the ladder right now, is what I feel like
so
it is. It's so
unreal.
nasty, but at the same time, it's like if I don't see tryhards on the ladder, then I'm the tryhard. So,
It's
with
true.
that thing going, I'm like, good. I'm not the tryhard this season, so that's pretty good. I squeaked up to 8. Haven't really played. I think I played like 13 games last week. Kevin, when we were last chatting, was the last time I actually got to sit down and play, and that was when you were stuck at like 9, 10.
And it was awful. It was truly awful.
You
I have
were
never been
so-
angrier at this game than I have been in the last like 2 weeks.
You were so
because
upset.
it's just so random. People are running bizarre decks that don't make sense. I played against like an aggro mech druid this afternoon. If I tried, I couldn't tell you how to make an aggro mech druid deck, but I faced it.
Yeah, I faced it earlier today too. I've
Wow.
seen that deck. Yep.
It's weird.
That's
It is
crazy.
a weird deck. It beat me too. I was playing Mech Mage.
Well,
I gave up on Mech Mage. I was going to play exclusively Mech Mage and max out my mage to level 60, and I got to 56 and said I can't do it. Like, it's not even fun.
quitter.
I had to play something that had some kind of draw, and I couldn't use Mech Mage or Mech Shaman. I had to get back on. I think I'm using mid-range Demon Zoo and stuff because there's just no other way. Like, if
Sure.
you play one of those decks that runs out of steam at turn 7 right now, you are going to lose to the flood of Zoo on ladder right now.
I played a mech priest, and
Yeah,
I
that's
beat
totally
I
a thing
beat
again.
I beat them on turn 5 with mid-range hunter, so that was fun. A good old juggler unleash. Come on.
Does the trick.
All right. Well, let's before we hop into the news, just want to remind everyone we do have a special month for our Patreon. We're over at patreon.com/wellmetpodcast. We're actually working with Fade to Karma guys. They've been awesome, and they have awesome content out there. And for the month of August, if any of our Patreon subscribers submit or Patron, I guess, whatever it would be, donate. I don't know what it is.
Support.
Support. $5 or more is going to be put into a drawing to get a free 1-hour coaching sessions with one of the guys from Fade to Karma. So you can check that out. Check out Fade to Karma at fade2karma.com. The 2 is actually the number 2. They're great. We also have the deck of the week by Fade to Karma over at blizzpro.com, hearthstone.blizzpro.com as well. Yep. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the news.
This week in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
Nothing to see here, guys. Hearthstone's a dead game, and Blizzard's just sitting on it until Overwatch comes out. So that's about it for the news. Let's go over to the next. Not. Huge news this week. Kevin hates me for doing that because I do it too much. This week we got huge news, but first let's start off with the new Hearthstone patch that went live here on Tuesday, right? We had extended maintenance on Tuesday, about 8 hours, and saw a new patch come through. Lots of really cool stuff. And we'll actually let JR give us kind of the rundown of what we're expecting to see here, or what we should have expected to see with this new patch. Go ahead, JR.
Yeah, so what you guys have probably already been playing and seeing, you would have seen the new board, the new Grand Tournament board, which was I was really looking forward to. But I don't think it's as good as some of the other ones. I'm curious what you guys think about the new board real quick before we get into the other stuff.
I mean, it's personally it's my favorite, but I like the food part. Everything else, I agree. The other, there's like 2 corners that are not very interactive, but that food corner one is really, really interactive, and it's my favorite. So I don't know. Go ahead.
Personally, I really like it. And just for the simple fact that unlike some of the other boards, everything is persistent. So it's not like the GVG one where once you launch the rocket, it's gone, and once the bombs blow up, they're gone, and you can't do anything with those spaces anymore. I really like that all the stuff on TGT board stays, and you can keep spinning the target dummy or, making them put out new sausages or whatever. Like, it's all stuff that's persistent, which I think is a really nice, kind of refreshing change.
Yeah, I like shooting the rocket, so that's probably why I don't.
The rocket is great, but then it's gone. I want to shoot it again.
The rocket needs to come back. All right. The other thing that is pretty big is that rank is now being tracked. So from the point that this patch was released to the end of the season, whatever was your highest rank, you will get rewards for that. So if you hit rank 7 this week and then drop down to rank 10, later in the week, and you end at rank 10, you're still going to get rewarded for hitting rank 7 at that point, even though you will end the season at rank 10. So that's pretty cool that they added that.
I'm so glad they did that, because that takes all the anxiety away from me from losing my rank and ending lower than I peaked at. So really like that.
Yeah, I really like it too, even though this season I'm going to be rank 10. So because I just haven't played.
I can't find it off the top of my head, but I know there is a breakdown out there somewhere where somebody took all the data from people who hadn't played since the end of July. Like, they logged in for the first time in August after the patch, and they got a ranked reward chest for July. Because basically, once the patch was applied, it's just an end of season reward. If you hadn't played since the end of the season, it was available to you.
Exactly.
And it's a scale that's basically more dust for every rank. And so the effect is that basically for every rank you finish at above rank 20, you gain an extra 5 dust, I think.
And then every 5 levels you get an extra gold card, right?
Not necessarily an extra. It just changes the rarity. It's golden common until 15, adds a rare when you get to 15. When you get to 10, it adds another common. When you get to 5, the rare becomes an epic. So it's not more cards necessarily, but yeah, it's all scaling. And then I think it's one extra common gold card at Legend, but technically more dust.
Do you know about how much dust is ranging? Around the rank 10 to rank 5? Is it 50, 100?
It's basically a range for every 5 ranks. It's anywhere from 5 to 25 dust plus the value of the cards. So 20 to 15, you've got that one common. 15 to 10, you've got an extra rare. 10 to 5, you've got 2 commons and a rare, and then 5 and up is an epic and 2 commons. So it's just whatever the disenchant value of that is. Like a golden epic disenchants for what, 400?
Oh, you don't get just like dust? I thought you got like...
You do, but it's just a little teeny, like 5 to 25.
Oh,
like
okay,
a little teeny
it's
parts
small.
of dust.
Got it.
And then the
Got
disenchant value of the card. So if you're not collecting gold cards, or if you get a duplicate or whatever, it's worth... Like, it's pretty decent. If you hit rank 5, I think a golden epic is 400 when you disenchant it, and a golden common is like 40. Something like that. So, I mean, it would be the equivalent of about 500 dust, which lets you make any epic card you need. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. That's pretty cool. Also, we got, these new 50 gold quests. Well, actually, yeah, so we have now win 3 games with a specific class. So there's the 40 for 2 games and the 60 for 5 games with this or that class. So, like Mage and Druid. Now it's just, for 50 gold, it's win 3 games with Priest or Druid or whatever. And also a Tavern Brawl quest for 60 gold that says win 5 Tavern Brawls. What do you guys think about these new quests?
I like that they added the Tavern Brawl one, like, enticing you. I feel like Tavern Brawl is already a pretty good place for players to get gold. Because it does give you 10 gold for 3 wins. So, you play 6 Tavern Brawls or whatever, and now you've got, 80 gold, and you almost have a pack. And that's one of my major complaints in this game is that for newer players, it's difficult to get gold, to get ramped up, to get caught up with people. And this is one of those things that can help a little bit. Anyway, it looks like Kevin wants to reply to that based on his face.
No, we just got a mention. You didn't call John out on the absence of a certain piece of accoutrement this week. He's not dressed appropriately. Still, 3 weeks later, you've given up.
I was being nice. I noticed it earlier, but okay, I was being nice.
But anyway, I think the Tavern Brawl quest is neat. And nice synergy, right? Because you could get like a Tavern Brawl quest, make a deck using whichever class you have a class quest for, and kind of cruise through it that way. I don't know that the 50 gold for a specific class quests are better than the existing ones where you got the option of playing multiple different classes. I guess it's nice that it's more raw gold, but I don't prefer that. I like the ones where I can kind of get multiple and mix and match them and be able to get multiple quests done at once, especially. But it's nice. It's nice to see them keep adding new quests. I'm hoping that as there's more features added to the game, we get more quests like the Spectator quest that encourages the social aspect of the game, because that's really nice. Like, if there was a quest that was like, play a Tavern Brawl with a friend, and you got 40 gold for that or something, like, I think that would be awesome. And I'm hoping that there's more stuff like that in the future that really encourages you to interact with the people that you're friends with in the game.
Yeah.
I'm with that. All right. Let's talk about this next one here. Yeah. This is a big one. Probably the most OP, huge nerf to Grim Patron Warrior too, which is, we've been asking for a nerf to Grim Patron Warrior for a long time. And so it's really nice to finally see this. And now you get instant concede in when you concede in game. So now you don't have to wait for 40 patron animations before you can concede, which is the most frustrating thing in the world. How do you guys feel about this one?
It was long needed. It was long needed even before Grim Patron. I mean, it was needed with Miracle Rogue. It was needed, any of those decks that take forever to play. You're like, okay, I'm just done. I want to go on to my next game. Now I have to sit here and wait 30 seconds. I've already hit concede, but I got to sit here and wait for all of their animations to complete on what they were doing before I hit that concede button.
True, but at the same time... Go ahead.
It always seemed really odd to me, right? That, like, you would try to concede and have to sit there and, like, the game was like, did I concede early enough to beat the animation timers and stuff? Like, it was just really uninteresting to sit there and wait for it. So I'm really glad that they decided to just... No, like, if you want to get on with your game, get on with your game. Especially since, like, I don't think there was any real reason that you had to sit and watch the animations before. It was just like, that was how the game was coded before there was a bunch of really lengthy animations. So no one ever actually sat for very long. But enter Patron, enter Frothing Berserker, yada yada, like all the things that have compounded that. And they did say in dev interviews that they don't have any intention of changing or shortening most of those animations. Like there's been the odd thing where they've tweaked it as like a fix. Like they've said, like, we're gonna make it so that the death rattle from Sludge Belcher spawns a little faster. Like, okay, sure, that was probably not an intentional design feature the way it went in, but no, if they're not going to change any of the other animations as a way to like force players to think about their turn and not rope out, then having that sort of setup where you can just leave a game and not wait for that is awesome.
Totally.
I will say though, my favorite thing about playing against Grim Patron is when they can't decide on the turn they're going to do until like last minute and they start roping and they're not able to complete their full turn. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, and at the same time, though, like, we've all been there where we know that we have, like, a really BM-y lethal, and so we try to, like, chain all of our moves right together so they can't concede in the middle of it, so that they get to, like, they have to eat it. Like, I don't know. Like, yes,
No, that's
it's
just
nice.
you.
I don't have to wait. Well, I just win more than you guys. So, I like... just being able to, it's a big part of the game, in my opinion. I mean, I like it, I get it, but I really like being able to just like smash it home, and they can't like concede or do anything unless they quit the whole client. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a nice quality of life thing. It's about time. It was much needed, but for us BMers out there, I'm a little bit sad.
I do not agree with your BMing.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you've been doing to me by not owning up to the bet.
It's just a elongated BM, so that's all it is. So, anything else with the patch notes you guys want to highlight or talk about before we jump into our last little bit of news before we jump into the tournament?
I guess the one thing I did want to call out, because I know there was some early feedback about it, there were a couple of minor bugs that were introduced by the patch. Things like not being able to see which cards were, and they don't use the word discard, but they're now removed by Fel Reaver, right? Stuff like that. There were some minor iterative bugs introduced in the new patch, and Blizzard jumped on them instantly. Like, the fixes for those things were done in, a day? Like 24 hours, and everything that people had reported and found, and they're just like yelling about it on Reddit or freaking out on Twitter, and then they fixed all of them. Like, everything that's been reported that I've seen has been fixed since, which I think is amazing that they were that sort of Johnny on the spot about it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I didn't get to see any of them, so
Nope,
I'm kind of
me either.
Well, I saw the
disappointed.
Fel Reaver one for sure, because I was playing Mech Mage, and like people were really like, "Is this intentional?" Like, my deck shrinks by 3 cards, but no one sees them. And then sure enough, yeah, they just turn around and boom, fixed, done. And like, I was in the client, there was no patch, there was no change on the server side. They solved it, and like from one game to the next, all of a sudden I saw the cards again. Like, it was crazy how fluid that fix was.
Yep.
It's pretty cool that they can turn around stuff that quick on hotfixes for a new patch. Because I mean, it's nice that Hearthstone is at least a smaller game that they can do that. Whereas like World of Warcraft, you don't see that kind of turnaround, right?
I mean,
Well,
they
even
hot
still,
fix like raids when like they first come out and they're doing Race for World first. Like, there's sometimes like admins and mods like sitting in the raid waiting for anything and applying a hot fix like mid pull.
yeah, I mean, like that Fel Reaver change, for sake of argument, there might have been 1,000 games being played with the Fel Reaver at that exact moment, and it didn't break that game. It didn't affect anybody's experience. They just next game you played, you saw the difference. It was really very well executed. So kudos. I thought that was great.
That's cool. Last bit of news. TGT comes out tomorrow, guys. In case you didn't know by all that stuff. That would be August 24th on NA. So if you're not watching this live and you're getting it tomorrow on your podcast feed, it comes out today. It's probably out now. You should go download it. Otherwise, if you're here now and not in the future, then like JR, you should download it tomorrow or play tomorrow. Yep.
We don't know what time.
Nope, not yet.
I would assume like between noon and 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Sometime.
So if you're watching the stream, don't stay up till midnight tonight thinking you're going to see it, because you probably won't.
Yep.
No, they've gone away from that. Like, even the last the Blackrock Mountain release was the same way. Like everybody was like, oh, it's going to be like 4 a.m. Pacific or whatever on Thursday, and like they just sort of sat when everybody was in the office and ready to kind of monitor things. Like they flip a switch manually at like noon, so
Yep.
they'll tell you when it goes live. It's not like it's going to be a surprise, but
It's going to be middle of the business day for Blizzard, so that way
exactly.
they're all there to be working on it because no one wants to work on this stuff at 3 a.m.
I disagree. I think you guys should all stay up till 2 a.m. for it to go live.
Yeah. Listen to John and then send him the hate mail when it doesn't happen.
jrcook@blizzpro.com. Send it right my way. Thanks.
And I will forward it to John.
Okay. Children,
All right.
please. There's
Okay,
money.
here we go. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the tournament news. We always do our tournament rundown every week, and so we're going to go ahead and do it. I'm getting pretty good at this tournament rundown, guys. So you guys ready? Here we go. NA Fireside Gathering Championship happened this last weekend, casted by Frodan and our friend Rob CM_Worthen on Twitter, and also Robert A. Wing. Can I say his personal?
Yep.
I just did. Whoops.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's
Robert
public.
A. Wing did an awesome job. Casting was super on point for that. And
I think that's the first time he's casted too, like publicly like that.
Yeah,
I think-
as a Blizzard employee, absolutely.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Outside of when they did the was it
They did the Black
Rock
Mountain reveal.
Black Rock Mountain
Yep.
review, but it wasn't really casting. They were kind of talking through stuff, but right
Yeah.
in like a professional casting type thing, he did an awesome job. I really enjoyed listening to him, and
They had a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
I hope he does. I hope he does more. Yeah. So we also had friend of the show, Captain Crunch, make it to the round of 4. Friend of JR's from Kansas City, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was the guy who, if you remember a few episodes ago when I was talking about the Kansas City Fireside Gathering, he was the one that organized it. And he had already qualified at another Fireside Gathering in Ohio. I think he was there for school or something like that, and that's why he was playing out in Ohio. But then he organized the one here in Kansas City. But he was able to go all the way through that Final Four. So I was really excited to see him playing.
Yeah, and top 4, he won like $500 or something, didn't he? I'm sure he
Yeah,
got some like Blizzard. I can't remember what it is. I know they're all sharing 5,000. It's like 2,500. Typically, how that split goes, it's like 2,500, something, and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Plus a trip out there to
yeah.
play.
And then we also had Puffin and Timotin in the finals, and Timotim won the tournament, and he will get a seat in the regional qualifier for BlizzCon. So congrats to Timotim. Hopefully we hear more about him. Like we said, we've seen some big names come from those Fireside Gatherings. I know we've highlighted in the past, Green Sheep was a Fireside Gathering winner who's now signed for Team Dignitas, right?
Yep.
And he actually plays really well, places really high. So yeah. Anything else on Fireside Gathering, boys? Done and done. Here we go.
Oh, I mean, it was a great show.
Yeah, for sure. Archon Team League, week 7. So the last week of the round robin tournament just finished up. And we had Cloud9 and Value Town secure spots in the LAN finals at the Archon Team House in Texas. So they finally announced where the finals are going to be, and it's going to be at the Archon Team House, which was kind of surprising. I thought they were going to actually try to book a real venue. I personally thought that they're going to try to book like not like a movie theater, but like not like a stadium, something in between there, like a convention center or something like that. I was expecting something a little bit bigger, but going with the Hearthstone seems to be a really good game for like those house tournaments and things like that. Seat Story Cup, and all that kind of stuff has been huge in the past. So they're going to be going on at the Archon Team House in Texas. This is interesting. So we actually had the Redemption tournament there where Nihilum and Team Liquid fought for the Redemption series to secure spots in Phase 2. And Nihilum just narrowly beat Team Liquid 6-5 after Life Coach lost 5 in a row before he could finally take the last one with Patron Warrior. Missed lethal like 3 times. Show missed lethal like twice. It was really intense, but it's also really weird because we have 4 teams tied at 4-3. So it's all about win differential at this point with who went to that. And even though Nihilum last week was in first place, they ended up having to play in the Redemption tournament because they lost. and had to basically it knocked him down from first to 6th and 7th with Team Liquid. So yeah, really crazy stuff there. And Kibler, our favorite, my favorite at least, was crowned the Master of Duels this week for $5,000 for himself, going 13-4. That is insane. 13-4 is a huge. I'd take that on ladder any day, and to do it in a tournament is pretty dang incredible. So now what we have phase 2 coming up with Team Archon, Tempo Storm, Forsen Boys, and Nihilum. We're going to battle for the top 2 spots there to face Cloud9 and Value Town in the finals for their share of $250,000. Let's reassess. So in the past, we kind of had our favorites. I know Kevin's was, mainly Team Archon and then Value Town. Mine was Nihilum. JR didn't watch esports at the time.
I said Value Town.
Right. So
yeah.
Who are you guys' favorites going into phase 2 in the finals?
I mean, if I had to pick right now, I think most of the teams have had good, strong showings, but I would say Value Town is probably my favorite to win. I think Archon has some really awesome players individually, but I know just watching some of these guys stream now and listening to them talk about the process and how they collaborate and stuff, Value Town has this stuff down to a science, and I think it really helps that they've got the depth of experience of having guys like Brian who really know not just Hearthstone, but the concepts that go into designing these games and understanding them at a very, very high level. He was actually, it's funny, he doesn't really talk about his Hearthstone doings very much. He's always talking up his Magic, Grand Prix and Pro Tours and stuff. But he actually made a fairly lengthy post on Facebook talking about how excited he was about winning this Master Duels and getting into the finals for this event and flying out there to do it. And I did sort of briefly mention to him that there is a certain podcast that someone he knows is a host on that might be interested in talking to him about it. So fingers crossed, I'm going to see if I can actually get him to come on the show at some point and tell us a little bit about the whole sort of experience, front to back.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's so cool.
He's a super nice guy. I got to hang out with him at PAX the first time after knowing him for years, and it was just nice to talk to the guy in person. He's an immensely talented player and designer of games.
Totally.
Yeah, John, if we get him on, can you make me a promise to not talk like that when he's here?
No. You guys are jerks. Just have fun, guys. Come on.
No, I am.
Are we not having
Just
fun?
kidding.
I'm having
Just
fun.
Let me be
It might be
me.
at your expense, but I'm having fun.
It's always at my expense. But at least
gotta be
I
at
have
someone's
this. So watch it. Last but not least, we had PvP Live, the 4-man tiebreaker for 8th place to go to the LAN finals in Texas. The Hearthstone Pro League is finished, and Kranich won the 4-way tiebreaker for 8th place. Dog takes 1st place in the league, and the finals are going to be announced soon with the actual final places and dates. But we finally have a top 8. Great players. Great Hearthstone was played all around. I was really pulling for RDU, but yeah, it's that's it. We're going to the LAN finals now. So I think we still, JR, are we still going to try to go down to that?
Maybe. Money might be a problem with me because I'm going to Dragon Con here in 2 weeks, and then I have to buy tickets for the Royals postseason.
You don't have to.
No, I have. No, I have to.
Okay. Anyways, what did you ask before, Kev?
I was just wondering if you had the rest of the top 8 from PvP Live. If you tell people.
It is Dog from Complexity, right? No. Yeah, Complexity Gaming. Purple from Team Archon. Zalay from Team Archon. Show from Team Liquid. Nyria from Team Liquid. Muzzy
from Hearthlytics, isn't he?
Hearthlytics, yeah. Jab, he's also Hearthlytics, right?
Yes.
And then, last but not least, Kranich, taking that last spot at number 8. So those are going to be the top 8. Cool.
That's awesome. I know I watched a few of Show's games, and he was playing really well. His Warrior game is on point, and he really brought that in pretty much every week in PvP Live.
Show is such a show off when it comes to his warrior play. I agree.
Going back to like
Sorry, go ahead.
going down there. I mean, are we gonna drive? Is that the
We
plan?
can drive.
Because that's the other thing that I have a problem with. I have to get new tires on my car.
You can fly to Denver. I'll drive down. I have tires on my car.
You know, that might not be too expensive.
All right, let's go ahead. So, guys, we prepared something really special for you guys this week. Coming into the last little bit before TGT tomorrow, Hearthstone split open. I'm gonna open up my packs and like get excited about the legendaries that I get. Maybe one or two, hopefully good ones. But besides that, Hearthstone's gonna be split right down the middle, and it's gonna just be chaos, the wild, wild west. And so what we wanted to do this week in this week's kind of the grand tournament segment is give you the official well-met top 10 most impactful cards of the grand tournament. So let's go ahead and jump in.
Having way too much fun with that, man.
Oh, yeah. I
All
am,
right.
aren't I? All right.
You
So
are.
we're going to go ahead. We're going to start from number 10, David Letterman style, right? Number 10 all the way up to number 1. So when we came up with number 10, though, we actually had it. Whoa.
Hold up for
All
a
right.
second. We gotta definitely like qualify. These are not necessarily the 10 best cards in the set. These are not necessarily the 10 cards you're gonna see played the most. These are the 10 most impactful cards. They're the cards that have the most effect on the like design of the game, the meta game, all the features that we expect to see move forward and sort of create new archetypes, change the meta, move the needle in the new set. They're not
Yes.
the best cards, they're the most impactful cards.
Impactful. Keep that in mind. So for number 10, we couldn't agree. We had a 3-way argument. So because of that, we actually are going to do a little special honorary
Player versus player versus player.
that took me way longer than it should have to actually put that bumper together, by the way. But player versus player versus player. We have a 3-way tie at number 10. So we're going to let you guys decide which you think is going to be the most impactful card, the 10th most impactful card in TGT. So let's go ahead and start. JR, let's actually let you start first. Tell us why you believe this card should be your top 10. Well, and tell us what it is, too.
Okay, so I chose Bolster, which is a warrior card. It's a warrior spell. Costs 2 mana. It says give your taunt minions +2/+2, which, okay, yeah. Why would that card even be any good, right? And I think it's because Taunt Warrior could possibly become a thing. Like, I think, yeah, we have Control Warrior. We have Grim Patron Warrior. Are we going to have Taunt Warrior? And if we have a Taunt Warrior, this card is going to be in that deck, and it's going to be the main staple of that deck. And that's why I picked Bolster. I think the card has potential to make a new deck. And I think it could potentially be a good deck.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Kev, tell us about your pick.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other good cards coming, but the one that I really felt needed to be on this list and wasn't is Mysterious Challenger. Mysterious Challenger, I think, because we're talking about impactful cards, is a card that has the potential to really move the needle and change the game, because Paladin has a wide range of secrets that individually are not great plays. They're not powerful enough to justify a Mad Scientist slot in your deck. They're tough to play. Sometimes they don't have the board impact you want. But if you can slap this down at any point during the game with any secrets buried in your deck, you have the potential to have a really scary turn setup where all of a sudden you've got Competitive Spirit, Noble Sacrifice, and Avenge all just hit the board all at once. And it's impossible to play around that. Like, the only card in the entire game that can answer Mysterious Challenger is Flare. And I don't think you're going to see Flare make a significant comeback for Card Cycle in Hunter anytime soon. So this is really an opportunity for Paladin players to bring secrets back into their deck, and it's a really great card to sort of help Paladin with that weird gap where right now as a Paladin you either have to close out the game fast in that sort of aggro mid-range quarter mastery style, or you've got to play the super slow I'm going to heal for 40 points of health with, Guardian of Kings and Lay on Hands, blah, 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 all trying to just sort of stay in the game. Like, Paladin is a class that fundamentally plays from behind after about turn 6. And so this would be like, if you didn't get all those secrets out in the early game to help build your board, slap them all down all at once, get 9, 10 mana and 2, 3, 4 cards played for 6 mana. That's huge. That's an incredible state of the game shift. And if this was in anything but Paladin, it would be an auto include. In Paladin, it's just good, not game breaking.
Yeah, it would definitely be game breaking though if those secrets were 3 mana, 2 mana stuff.
Yeah,
so I understand why you have to make it a Paladin card. I like your analysis of this card. And Strife Crow has said before, again, if it works, Dr. Boom levels of good. If it does not work, Trogzor levels of good. So I'm right with him. It's seeing if there can be a balance between that card to make work. But let's talk about my card here. So mine is the Darnassus Aspirant. Darnassus Aspirant. 3 times really fast. Okay, I got it. So it is a 2 mana, 2/3 rare Druid card. Battle Cry, gain an empty mana crystal, Death Rattle, lose a mana crystal. I love this card. The one thing that Druid really lacks right now is the consistency in turns 1 through 3. Adding a auto include like this, even though its effect is temporary, it's an immediate deal with. So aggro can't run you over, number 1. Number 2, there's just nothing to play on turn 2 unless you get Wild Growth or something like that. And it's just a super strong card. It's a no-brainer for Druid, and it's something that they've really, really needed in order to go from, a low tier 1 deck to the top. And I think that this is going to be one of the most impactful cards that we're going to see for Druid for sure, if not for the entire game. So I'm all about the Darnassus Aspirant. Cool?
Yeah, so, email us and let us know who won.
Yep. Yeah, you guys got to let us know who
Tweet
won?
at us or something. Tell us in chat.
Rap battles of history. What?
Which of these 3 cards?
There's a lot of cool
number
stuff
10?
in there, right? Like, I think they all have cases to be made. I think I'm more on John's side than JR's, just because I don't think Taunt Druid is as likely to be effective Taunt Warrior as like a modified ramp Druid. Like, I think there's more case to be made there, but they're all crazy new cards.
Yeah.
Like, these could all very much be played starting every day tomorrow.
Sure.
Yeah, my whole point was, it could create a new deck that we might see that might be competitive. I have no idea if it's going to work. So it was definitely a long shot.
Yeah. I mean, my only fear is, like, of the 3, JR's is probably the best in terms of something you would play late in the game. Mysterious Challenger 6/6 for 6 is, like, okay. It's good. Darnassus Aspirant is basically unplayable after turn 10, in my opinion. I don't know if the empty mana crystal gives you the draw.
Nope.
If you get it late in the game, the way Wild Growth would.
No, it does not.
So that's a liability then. You literally can't afford to put it on the board after turn 10 in most cases.
Cool. All right, guys. Let's go on to the next one. So number 9, Polymorph Boar. 3 mana mage secret. Transform a minion into a 4/2 boar with charge. Let's talk a little bit why we think that this card is going to be so impactful in TGT. Kev, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good things about this card, right? One is that it's still actually a good removal card. Like, at the end of the day, giving your opponent charge doesn't matter. So if you need to turn a Dr. Boom into a boar or something, like, there's still value there.
Sorry,
There's
not a secret. It's not a secret. I called it a secret. It's a spell, not a secret.
Right. So it's definitely like, it's a card that can be played as removal. It's also a really easy way to take something on your side of the board that wasn't great and quickly turn it into something that attacks. Because basically being able to do, like, if you attack with a minion that's already on the board and then cast this on it, you get 4 free damage for 3 mana, which is great, and a body, right? Which oftentimes the bodies on your side of the board aren't going to be super useful. Or, for example, if you know that your mad scientist can't draw anything and it's just a dead body on the board, like you would rather do that. There's lots of use cases for this card.
Totally.
And I think the fact that it has all those options, like I don't think I've ever seen anyone polymorph their own minion, but I can totally see you using polymorph boar either way.
Yep, it's
like
offensive
or defensive.
and defensive, and that's what I really like about it. There are not enough really versatile spells like that. Warlock has a few where it's like give your demons +2/+2 or deal 2 damage or whatever, things like that. So, or 4 or whatever it is. So there's definitely stuff there. But yeah, I'm totally on board. JR, what do you think?
No, I 100% agree with both of you guys. It's offensive, defensive. That's why, I put it in my list. Because, if you have it late game and you need, that extra little push to get you over and you have a little 1/1, well, now you have, 3 more attack, for possible lethal or something like that. Or if they drop down a Ragnaros and you have a mad scientist on the board, you can polymorph the Ragnaros and then kill it with your mad scientist.
Totally.
I like that it's 3 mana too. It fits in that spot nicely. I mean, it could, what else do mages really play at 3?
Arcane Intellect and Flame Waker. That's basically it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think it goes in that spot very well.
Totally. Let's go into number 8.
You and your goddamn drum roll.
I missed the button though.
That's okay.
All right. Warrior Dragon cards. So Warrior Dragon just in general is something I think we're really excited about on this podcast. We really want dragons to work. I don't know what it is about us 3 and wanting dragons to be awesome, but we are pulling for dragons really hard. And I think with some of these cards, we're going to see it. So the 2 cards we have up on the screen is Twilight Guardian. It's a 4 mana neutral epic. Okay, I know it's neutral. 2 attack, 6 health dragon that reads Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. So a Fen Creeper dragon for 1 less, which is kind of awesome. And then the other one is Alex Strauss's Champion, 2 mana, 2/3 Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and charge. Both 2 cards that dragon decks have really needed to become viable. So we selected this one because this could be really impactful and create a whole brand new deck that's actually truly, truly viable and competitive. Kevin, any additional thoughts on this one?
I mean, I think you hit the big notes on the head, right? Dragon Warrior was already sort of a thing. The problem with Dragon Warrior relative to most of the other classes that were trying to make dragons work, and let's be clear, none of them were highly effective. They were all super dependent on the 1 or 2 late game dragons, right? Dragon Warlock was basically leaning on Twilights and Malagos, I guess. Dragon Warrior was just the late game, like you wanted Alexstrasza, Ysera, Nefarian in some cases, all to activate your Blackwing Corruptors. Like there just wasn't enough early game synergy to make it work. Twilight Guardian is the card that I said as soon as Blackrock Mountain dropped, like the absence of a taunt dragon was the problem. The synergy is great, the stat block is great. It's the right amount of this is actually, for a lot of classes, more difficult to deal with than a Sludge Belcher. And Alex Strauss's Champion on the flip side, I can't believe that's a 2-drop. A 2/3 for 2 is a great, totally on curve play that contests every other serious concern in terms of an aggro 2-drop in the game. And now if you have a dragon in hand, which you quite likely do, you've got a 3/3 charge body for 2, which is absurdly good. I think that card alone might be the best 2-drop in the game now, assuming you can activate it. I think it's actually the best stats on 2 of anything in the game. So that's crazy. That's a super good card.
And statistically now, there's enough dragons to assume that. So that's what we're going off, is that there should be enough at this point for Strife Crow and the other guys to figure out what's going on. JR, what do you think?
Right.
Calling it now, Dragon Taunt Warrior. Using Pulse.
Dragon
Come
Taunt
on,
Warrior.
Taunt.
There it is.
Taunt Warrior. Please,
You're probably going to
Lord.
run 6, 7 activators for dragon cards in Warrior now? You would run Twilight Guardians for taunts. You would run 2 or 3 late games. You might run like 1 or 2 other dragons somewhere in that mess. Maybe you use Chilma. Maybe like I don't know which cards it will be, but there's going to be like a solid 20% of your deck that can activate your Blackwing Corruptors and your Alex Strauss's Champions and your Twilight Guardians. That's super good.
I think Dragon Warrior has a like people are gonna try to make it work, but I don't know if it's gonna be good enough yet. I think there's still some missing synergies with Warrior. So
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't have this in my top 10, so I don't necessarily 100% agree.
Well,
Fair enough.
this is a democracy here on the podcast, and it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to enjoy it anyway. Let's go on to the next one. Number 7. Justicar Trueheart. And she's all one a place in our hearts. It is a 6 mana, 6/3 neutral legendary minion that reads Battlecry, replace your starting hero power with a better one. You guys can go back for the first episode we talked about in the Grand Tournament if you want to kind of know more about the different hero powers that it does. But ultimately, basically doubles the power of a hero power for the same amount, basically is what it does. Rough math. So, yeah. JR, why is this one on the list as most impactful?
Well, it's because you don't see it on the screen here. It's because of what it does. I mean, it impacts the entire game after you play her. You get that here. You get that bigger hero power the rest of the game. So if you're a hunter, your hero power now does 3 damage. If you're a warlock, you no longer take damage when you draw a card. That's just a couple of the things. I believe those are right. I don't have the list in front of me. I'm just trying to go off memory. But it's just, to have that additional boost on your hero power to affect the game, I think you'll see this card fairly often, especially if they're trying to run any kind of Inspire deck. So,
what about you, Kev?
I think this is one of the most significant cards in the game for any deck where you intend to go long, right? Because you can play it at any point in the game, even as the very last card in your deck, and it's still significant to the overall clock of your whole game plan if it goes that long. There are obvious winners and losers for this card, and yes, it's easy to remove. 3 health is not enough to get excited about. Like a 1-drop can almost trade into it, but yeah, you're talking about a card where for like warrior, priest, druid, you are adding a ton of value to the length of a game. And you only have to hero power effectively probably twice to make up the difference in terms of what you're trading away for stat block or battle cry relative to another card that you would have played here. And in the kind of decks you would run this in, like we did that statistical analysis back when we first talked about this of how many times hero power was used in an average deck, and in lots of them it was only like 2 or 3, with the exception of very specific things like handlock. But in any of the decks that run long games, right, your control warrior, your light bomber, like heaven forbid freeze priest, right, like they need that hero power forever. This is for priest like Velen on steroids, because it's Velen that doesn't matter if the body is on the board or not, right? That's insane. That's incredibly powerful, and will combo right into Velen and all the other things that matter in terms of like affecting your hero power and inspire. Like it's a huge play, in my opinion, for any deck that can hero power multiple times later in the game efficiently.
Right. I don't think it's going to work in all of the classes, but there are a few that it will, and I think it'll work really well.
Yeah, I feel like any of the defensive ones where you're playing any kind of control and are going for the late game is where this card's going to be played. Priest, warrior, druid.
I also
even
don't
like freeze mage maybe, right, or like anything that goes late in the game.
Right, and I've said this before. I don't know if this is something you necessarily drop on turn 6. I think if you have it, you can, but I think you are probably looking for your Sylvanuses and Thorisons on 6, and this guy playing a little bit after, when you really need to put on the heat and the pressure in a control deck. But we're going to find out more in weeks to come. Let's jump over to the next one. Oh, no.
There's no drum roll, John.
There's no drum roll, but it's Idis Darkbane. Kev, talk to us a little bit about Idis Darkbane.
Sure. So we got two new, very powerful 3 drops in the new set, right? There's the drum roll. The two Valkyr twins out of the old Trial of the Crusader raid in World of Warcraft. The two of them are both fairly powerful. They've got some unique interactions. They got a great stat block for 3 mana. 3/4 for 3 was unheard of when we got Dark Cultist back in Naxxramas, and it's still a very, very powerful stat block. Idis in particular, I think, is the better of the two because 3 damage when you cast a spell on her, if you've got a cheap like 1 or 2 mana spell that you can use to activate her, is going to trade into an opposing minion and probably clear it. Like 3 damage is a lot. 3 free damage is, I mean, we get crazy excited about like Fire Elemental and Blackwing Corruptor, ways to deal 3 damage. Now that's targeted, not random, but I mean, what at that stage in the game is going to survive that? So few things are going to live through that 3 free damage. And in the kinds of decks where you're already a little spell heavy and you need some way to turn those spells into efficient trades, like in Priest or maybe like early mid-range Paladin, this is scary good, in my opinion.
Yep. I really like this too. I like it in Priest. I think that's the obvious one. I think there could be some interesting thing in Paladin and Shaman as well. Like I've been thinking about, rock biters and things like that. And all the different other little, like there's so many Shaman spells that don't see play right now, but I think with some of these new Shaman cards we're seeing, we might actually see some more of those targetable spells. So those are kind of my 3.
I think this could easily become one of the best 3 drops in the game as far as just sheer power that it can do, depending on what you're playing it with.
Cool.
Yeah, you basically just want to buffer up and keep her around as long as you can because, I mean, it's also random enemy, right? Like if you're sitting there as a priest and your opponent has no board, like, yeah, you just power word shield. That's 6 damage to the face. That's a fireball. Like that's a lot of pressure that you can apply using this card.
Totally agree. Let's go to number 5. Shaman cards.
We cheated here a little bit.
We cheated. But there's no doubt that there are some incredible new synergies with Shaman that are much needed. So we've got 4 cards up here. We've got the Draenei Totem Carver for 4. Battlecry, gain +1 and +1 for each friendly totem. The Tuskar Totemic, a 3-mana 3/2. Battlecry, summon any random totem. The Thunderbluff Valiant, that reads, I forget the attack, but the health is 6. Inspire, give your totem 3. Thank you. Give your totems +2 attack. And then we've got the Totem Golem, which is a 2-mana 3/4 totem that reads Overload 1. So strongest 2 in the game. Essentially gives you the Spider Tank on turn 2. And it's a totem, which is really, really insane. JR, tell us a little bit about why Shaman cards and why it's so high up the list.
I mean, I feel like we should have named this as Totem Shaman cards, because that's basically what this is. Right? We're expecting Totem Shaman, the synergy of totems with Shaman to be a big thing in the Grand Tournament, and it's going to be a new deck that Shamans can possibly bring that could be very good. I mean, if you look at all these cards, they're pretty low cost. They provide a lot of value. They do something with Shamans that I felt like Shamans didn't really have, and that's making their hero power actually effective, because I feel like Shamans had the weakest hero power in the game. So to have some of that synergy with those totems that you're creating is a pretty big deal. And that's why we picked this.
Totally. Anything you want to add, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, basically, when we were making the list, my justification was honestly Thunderbluff Valiant, because that's a card where the synergy with your existing board, like Shaman builds a board so fast and so like successfully that you're gonna have board presence. Very rarely does Shaman lose board presence. You're hero powering constantly to just get something on the board. They're not super easy to clear, or often just overlooked. Right? The average deck just says, it's a 0/2, it's not doing anything, I don't care, and they ignore it. That permanent Inspire effect from Thunderbluff Valiant is unreal power in terms of what it's going to do to your deck. And when you use the Inspire effect, you get the new totem, and then it applies the Inspire effect. Like your hero power resolves before Inspire effects resolve. So we're going to have this quick, like, board swarmy, holy crap, there's so much threat on the board. There, like you said, there's all these like shaman spells and interactions that haven't seen any value, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, maybe there is a reason to run one copy of Totemic Might or something. Like, this is going to make for the scariest boards in the game. It might bring Bloodlust back. It might bring Wind Fury back. Like, it's going to be incredible how assertive that mid-range shaman is going to be with these particular totem synergies that just flat out didn't exist until TGT.
I love my permanent 2-mana Bloodlust that are permanent. So I like those really well. That's why people hate me, by the way, because I can't say words. That's why I'm the most hated one. Let's go on to the next one. Bolf Ramshield. I'm really proud of this pick for us here because Bolf Ramshield is a really cool pick that I don't think a lot of people are judging correctly. So let's talk a little bit about Bolf Ramshield. Bolf Ramshield is a 6-mana, 3 attack, 9 health minion. Legendary minion. Reads, whenever your hero takes damage, this minion takes it instead. Kev, tell us a little bit more about why Bolf.
Because he's incredible. I mean, bottom line, if I could pay 6 mana for 9 armor and a body, I would. We use that math already to justify things like Shield Maiden, which is incredibly, incredibly powerful, in my opinion. This is probably single-handedly the almost best card in the game to buff. It is one of the best cards in the game to use Faceless on. Like, Faceless Manipulator is coming back because of this card. I'm putting money down on that today now. It's going to be the easiest and most efficient way to stall your opponents. Basically, it has to be hard removed because otherwise you can never attack your opponent. It kills face decks outright if it hits the board. It's got so much synergy with the toolkits of the classes that want to stop face damage that it's kind of absurd. Basically, unless you play it into hard removal, like if you know your opponent's sitting on a Shield Slam or a Polymorph or something, then yeah, okay, you've made a mistake. But like when this actually sticks on the board for any length of time, it's probably one of the swingiest turn 6 plays in the whole game.
Okay. Cool. JR, anything you want to add to that?
I think Kevin pretty much summed it up. I'm curious. It's one of those cards that I'm still not 100% sure if it's going to work out as well as I think it will in my head. So I'm still kind of leery about it, but I think I think we placed it in the right spot for most impactful though.
Yep. And again, this is potentially most impactful, I guess. Yeah. This is the way to do it.
Well, like, just for sake of argument, to think out loud about it, what does it take to remove 9 health? That's both charges of a Death Spite, that's Fireball and a Frostbolt. Well, like, you cannot clear it efficiently.
Yeah, you can, because you just go for the face, and then this minion ends up dying. And your minions don't take any damage. Like, that's the downside of this card, is you can still hit them in the face, kill this minion, and your minions are still alive. So that's the major downside of this card. So I don't know if you can find a way to multiply them a little bit and get that going, then it's good. Otherwise, I mean, anti-Killbot could be.
I am so upset at you, JR, for thinking so pessimistically when you are here chanting and marching around your room talking about Taunt Warrior, and then don't give this card a little bit of credit.
No, but I'm giving it credit, but I'm also like giving the downside for it, that why I think it may not end up being good. I still agree with its placement. I still think it could be a great card.
All right, that's fair. Okay, let's keep going down the list here. We're down to the top 3. Things are getting exciting. Fencing Coach. All right. A 3-mana 2/2 rare. That's it. 3-mana 2/2 rare. No card text, no anything. Just 3-mana 2. 2.
You're the worst troll ever. You put on like a very
The
particular
worst.
like voice when you're trying to be trolly.
It's
Just
true.
so we're clear.
I'm the worst at it.
Okay.
All right, it's the battle cry. The next time you use your hero power, it costs 2 less. I want to talk about this one. I'll let you guys talk about the last 5 cards. So I'm going to take the front end of this one and let you guys take the back end. So we've been talking about how Inspire is slow. We've been talking about how it's just really hard. And every Inspired card, up to, we actually saw this card reveal was always like, well, if it's 4 mana, you actually have to count it as 6 to give it any value and things like that. And this changes that a little bit. It allows you to play a 4 mana Inspire card on turn 4 for free, essentially, and get that Inspire effect immediately, kind of. So I think this could be huge. I think if Inspire can become viable, and you are going to be running an Inspire deck, I do not see how you cannot include this card. Anything to add to that, boys?
No, I agree. If Inspire is going to work, you have to have this guy, because this is like, if you are making an Inspire deck, this is what is going to make Inspire decks work.
Okay.
I mean, and that's why we have him where he's at.
Okay.
And if Inspire decks are going to be a thing, this is the guy that's going to do it.
There's a ton of cards that affect the hero power in this set. Not Inspire cards that benefit from the hero power, but cards that affect it, right? The Garrison Commander, Maiden of the Lake, like all these cards that have bottom line effects on your hero power. This is the best of them, right? If Inspire ever has the ability to do anything that sets up really impressive combos, or you need the ability to do something with your hero power on top of 10 mana and you're not playing a Druid with Innervate, like this is the way that you allow that to occur. This allows you to play this, ignore it, and your opponent knows now, like, holy shit, unless they're running that one card, I don't know what it's called, that increases the cost of a hero power, like a Loatheb for hero powers. This actually is your major activator for Inspire and all of those things. The 2/2 body doesn't matter. I mean, your hero power has a cost of 2, and you're getting to play it for free at some point. This, like, it's not swingy the way that like Unstable Portal is, but this is the kind of card that has that sort of impact on your game, where you get that free effect and on demand when you need it, when you're ready to use Inspire, or when you're ready to draw into a combo piece as Warlock, or whatever that might be. It's going to have, it is the Thaurissan of the Inspire set, in my opinion. It activates the combos for Inspire.
All right. Bold words from Mr. Canada on
Mr.
the fencing
Canada
coach.
to you.
Miss Madam Canada up there. Sorry, Madman. It's dyslexia. I'm sorry. Yeah, I really like fencing coach. Again, for those listening for the podcast and those joining us live, remember, these are the most impactful cards to our opinions. We know they are not the best. That we can tell you already. These are not the best cards at TGT. Trust us. We know that. Let's go ahead and hop in now to number 2. We're getting really high up there. Number 2 is... All right, Lock and Load. This one I think is really controversial, and I'm expecting our chat to explode at any given moment. Lock and Load is a 2-mana epic spell. Hunter reads, each time you cast a spell this turn, add a random Hunter card to your hand. Let's go ahead and talk about this card really quick. Now, I got to play a little bit with this card this last week, and I thought it was freaking awesome. I was a big doubter of this card because there's so many weak beasts and weak Hunter cards, honestly. There's some really strong ones and then some really, really, really horrible ones. But for whatever reason, when I was playing it this week, it solidified my belief in Lock and Load. I thought it was awesome this week. So I'm a big fan of Lock and Load. What about you, Kev?
I mean, okay, so I was sort of the dissenting opinion on this one. I wouldn't have rated it as high as number 2, but I think it's the kind of card that when we're talking about impactful, has the ability to totally blow the game wide open. You're not getting inexpensive cards, you're not getting them for free, but the ability to basically play the cards that you were going to play anyways, your removal cards, the, cycle cards, whatever it is that you were going to use in your deck already, to get new cards just to refill your hand. Like, Hunter has this real problem where it empties out, right? You don't have a good draw engine. You've got limited cycle. All of a sudden, you play this card and you throw down one of the like 26, I think. Like there's 24 for sure, minimum hunter spells that you can now combo into this to just generate new free cards. And lots of those free cards aren't great. But like, what are you going to draw into that's awful? None of the hunter cards are truly unplayable. There's all kinds of synergy with beasts. There's all kinds of synergy with the weapons, traps. Like you have all of these things that interplay in your existing hunter decks already. This card, I think, fills the sort of hole that Feigned Death was supposed to fill, where you could get crazy value off of a quick play by just like, oh, I've got a whole bunch of death rattles, bam, and then activate them all. But it became the kind of card where basically you played it alongside Sylvanas, and otherwise it was useless, right? I tried for a long time to make like the Baron Rivendare Sylvanas Feigned Death deck work. It doesn't. But this card has the potential to just blow all of those things wide open. And all of a sudden, too, it's one of the cards that, much like things like Unstable Portal, all of a sudden you can't plan for what your opponent's going to play, right? You don't know anymore. Where it used to be like, yeah, okay, I know that my opponent's running a mid-range hunter. These are the cards he's going to play. And then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, created by Lock and Load, you slap down like a Scavenging Hyena behind your Unleash or something, and holy shit, like there's new synergy created by the card that didn't exist in your deck when you loaded into that game. So it's probably not going to win games by itself. It's kind of like a weird win more bizarro free draw card, I guess. But it impactful, yes. Potential to swing games, massive.
And I don't think you're going to see this in Face Hunter or anything like that. You're going to see it possibly mid-range, possibly a Control Warrior type. You're going to see it played late game.
Control Warrior, huh?
Yeah. Control Hunter, I believe is what I meant to say. Anyway,
got him.
Yep. You're going to see it late game. You're going to see this played, on turn 8, 9, 10. And then when you have, you might see it turn 10 and all you have is a quick shot. And then you just combo in with everything that you get beyond there. So I think it may not be viable, but I think you're going to see people try to make it work. And that's the reason why we ranked it so high.
I'm calling it for Miracle Hunter. I'm calling it right now. I think that's going to be the thing. There's
already so many good spells, right? You play Quick Shot,
spells.
You play Animal Companion, you play Kill Command. Like now you just wait until you have the ability to cycle something with that, or heaven forbid, start running Deadly Shot, Multi-Shot, Explosive Shot. Any of the hunter removal that no one plays now has huge late game impact.
Yep, I agree. Let's go to number 1 here. We got to get going. So number 1. And it is Varian Wrynn. Varian Wrynn, 10 mana, 7/7 warrior legendary. Battle cry, draw 3 cards. Put any minions you drew directly into the battlefield. This one is no doubt one of the most powerful cards in the game. I think there's one missing from our list that we'll talk about, honorable mention, and maybe even slide in at like 3.5 or 2.5. But before we do, Varian Wrynn is kind of insane and kind of something that we really needed to see, or felt like we really needed to see from Warrior, especially kind of like the control part, especially as the meta has gotten faster and Control Warrior is getting weaker. This can easily solidify them back at that spot. Kev, talk to us a little bit about Varian.
Okay, so when we started, we said most impactful card that has the most potential to sort of affect the game state, the meta, the way you play. There's nothing you can do in the game, period, to prepare for Varian Wrynn to hit the board. There's nothing you can do. Nothing you can play actually allows you to be ready for this card to hit the board. You have to react to it. You have to respond to it. When he's played, if he draws 3 spells and they don't hit the board as minions for free, you don't care. The 7/7 body is monstrous, and drawing 3 cards at that stage in the game is often what you need to find the next piece, whatever that piece might be, whether it's a combo piece, the cards you need to survive after the next turn, the activator you need for something that you already had in place. Like, this is singularly the most impactful card that can hit the board. And from now till forever, when you play against a warrior, you have to play around it. You have to play around the potential for this card to be played. The warrior archetype is going to shift. It's going to shift away from cards that don't have that immediate board impact. Because I know we've talked a lot about board impact and its significance. We had this argument when I talked about like why to run cards that you have to deal with because they come into effect as soon as they touch the board, as opposed to death rattles or things that you need to use to set up combos. Like if Varian Rin draws anything that hits the board that your opponent doesn't have hard removal for, it's probably game. That probably is the end of the game. And any class that doesn't have board sweep removal to remove multiple minions at once can't respond to Varian Rin. And like, what are you going to do? You're going to sit back as Warlock and hold Twisting Nether to wait for the Varian turn? Like, this is something that every single game now against Warrior has to take into account. And lots of classes don't have a way to answer it. Like, period, full stop, can't do it.
Cool.
Yeah. Not only is this made our top most impactful, this is probably the best legendary as well in the game.
Yep.
In my opinion, because dropping this, like, potential, I mean, the potential that you can end up doing, like the dream would be like, yes, you know, you drop this and then you get Ysera and Ragnaros or something like that. That's just immediate. Well, I get a draw card and then deal 8 damage randomly, and I have a 7/7 on the board and a 4/12 and this 8/8 that's just gonna dish out damage as well. Or I draw 3 spell cards and, you know, get to do great things with them. It's a pretty ridiculous card, especially for Control Warrior, which already goes to late game as it is. That it's gonna get played.
Yep, I totally agree. I do want to bring up one honorable mention. Didn't make the list because I think it's just too too undecided yet. I did want to talk about Mistcaller. It's a 6 mana 4/4 Shaman legendary that reads Battlecry, give all of your minions all cards in your deck. No, sorry, all minions in your hand and deck +1/+1. I don't have the slide for it or the card text, so I might have butchered it a little bit, but that's roughly what it is. This was a hard one. We didn't place it, but there's no doubt it's an incredibly exciting card and could be this set's Grim Patron or Dr. Boom, where not everyone thinks it's going to be the best thing, and then in 5 months, I'll be like, how did you not see that Mistcaller was going to be so impactful? I called it. But until that day, we're leaving it at honorable mention. I'm sure there's a lot that you guys would disagree with and agree with, so you guys should let us know. Send us an email at wellmet@blizzpro.com or give us a tweet or yell at us in Twitch chat. That's all fine. We'll take it all the same. We love to chat about it and talk about it. This is not a definitive list. It's just the actual right list, straight from Blizzard headquarters. So, yeah, cool. Well, guys, that's our TGT top 10. We've got to move a little bit here, and there's a couple of other things that we want to talk about really quick. Kev, you want to go ahead and talk about the this really cool article that just came up in the competitive Hearthstone subreddit?
I do, yeah. So for those of you that don't already know or visit, there's a really great community on Reddit called Competitive HS, Competitive Hearthstone. And one of their sort of like main moderators, Zandalay, put together a compilation article, and we'll link to it in the show notes so you can go to it yourselves, that basically goes through all of the really like high-level, timeless guides on how to get better at Hearthstone. And it talks about some very cool concepts, things like ranges, a concept kind of ported over from poker and other games, how to understand variants, all sorts of things about like how to select decks. Firebat put together a really great guide on how to build a deck selection utility, and it allows you to just like copy his spreadsheet that he uses when he's picking decks to take the tournaments. And a whole bunch of things on like how to get better at decision making, effective laddering habits, ways to hit legend, stuff that's really, really powerful to read through and understand. And really, like, once you've spent some time with it and allowed it to sort of percolate, does start to shift the way that you play and help you think about what you're doing every turn in the game, and not just, okay, I'm going to run this deck and I'll play the best card I have on any given turn. Like, you start to really get a sense of the game as a whole, and I mean, the best ones for me have been the ones where I start to understand that, yeah, there's a lot of variance, there's a lot of randomness, there's a lot of factors that are outside my control. And if I get mad about them, I'm not doing myself any favors. And there's lots of really, really valuable material in there. So take a look, go through it, check it out. There's just a ton of really great reading material. They are written guides. So they're great for you to sit and kind of chew on for a while. They're not podcasts, they're not videos. You got to actually sit down and concentrate on them, which for the material that's in them, I think is the appropriate like delivery mechanism. So check it out.
Cool. I really like it. There's definitely some really essentials, really big essentials if you're wanting to get more serious about Hearthstone or just want to improve your gameplay and understand these key concepts to being truly great at the game and having fun and taking advantage of some of those core concepts. So,
and that subreddit's really great for competitive players. Like you'll find that as people hit legend, they'll post deck lists and guides and mulligan strategies and stuff there. It's worth like checking out on a regular basis if you want to play competitively.
Totally. All right, guys. We got one email, then we're going to go ahead and close up the show.
We've got mail.
So really quick, I'm going to go ahead and read this one, and then we'll go ahead and answer it really quick and get out of here. So we did get
this was last week's email, right?
This was last week's email. So sorry, sometimes we don't get to it on the week that we always can, but we did get to this one. If you want to hear your email read on the show and think you have some really great thoughts, send us an email at wellmet@blizzpro.com. So we got an email from Brad. He says, "Hey guys, my name is Brad or Brad's Gaming on the Internet, and I just wanted to say first off that I love your podcast." We always have to keep that as part of the email when we read it on the show. So just saying. My opinion that this is, oh man, I can't do that. It makes us too.
Do you want me to read it, John?
Go ahead. You got to read it, Kev. I can't. It just warms my heart. Go ahead and do it.
So Brad says, my opinion is that this is the best Hearthstone podcast out there. And now I'm writing this email in regards to the last podcast, episode 22, when you guys were reviewing the Grand Tournament cards. Take it away, John.
All right. So why is it that everyone seems to feel the cards being released are mediocre at best? I feel like when we look at these cards for their negatives rather than their positives. The first card I wanted to point out from the last episode is a new Barak. Kevin is the first person in the history of the world ever, just kidding, he didn't say that part, but he's the first person I have heard say the card is playable. He gave legitimate reasons as to how this card could be used and got me excited to try the card myself when the expansion is released. While on the other side, I did not agree with the thoughts given on Aviana and Living Roots. Aviana is not just a win more card as most people say. I feel like she could be used for a huge comeback though. The most obvious reason is Kel'Thuzad, as you mentioned, but I feel it on turn 9 if you play Aviana and innervate into any 2 minions, that is a huge tempo swing. We would agree with you. While Living Roots is either a Holy Smite, which is not bad, or 2/1/1 creatures. This helps Druid probability to win a joust that much more, as they would use this in place of a zombie chow. Plus, as you mentioned, the synergy with Violet Teacher is awesome. True, we agree with you there. Anyways, I just wanted to hear you guys' opinions on these few cards again and see if maybe your opinions may be swayed from what they were before. Once again, thanks a lot for the effort you guys put into the content you do, and I hope you have time to read this. And we did. So, let's go ahead and give this guy a chat. More than anything, what we really wanted to address here is why is there so much pessimism around these new cards as they come out? I think that's the main question we need to answer here. So, Kev, why are you so pessimistic about these new cards?
I mean, I think he called me out as the guy who was the least pessimistic, but I think
you were being silly about a new Barak.
I was not being silly.
You're being
the
silly.
General scope of most new cards, for better or for worse, is we talk a lot, and you probably heard some talk if you've followed the Hearthstone community in general lately about power creep. Fundamentally, new cards can't be better than old cards. If they are magically mandatory in your deck because they are physically 100% better, that's bad for the game because it means that the newest cards are always the best cards, and that tends to snowball, right? As cards get better, old cards become less valuable, less playable. So the new cards have to do something different, right? You've seen a lot of cards in this set that have really odd stat blocks. They're typed very unique. They're trying to make tribes work in new and different ways. They're all cards that try to create new combinations without actually just being better. If they were just better, we'd have a problem. So we're not excited in the way that you maybe expect us to be with the new set because we're all looking for that card, the one card that we're going to throw in every deck, right? And if anything, the problem is that this is a set that is very well designed in the sense that that card doesn't exist. There's tons of good new cards that will activate new archetypes, that will facilitate changes to the meta, that will move the needle a little bit in terms of especially ways to close out games. There's a lot of really cool closers, and that was why I was really excited for a Nubarok, because he has the potential to end a game in a way that Rogue has never had before. Whether that actually works or not will be seen in the days and weeks to come, but that's where we're kind of stuck, is that we're looking at the decks we play right now and saying, what card would I substitute? What new card am I going to trade in for an old card? And it's not a trade up, it's a trade laterally. It's a card that does something different, not something better. So we're as excited as we can be because we're all just trying to solve the puzzle, and the puzzle right now is very balanced. Blizzard did a really good job delivering an expansion that adds cool new stuff, will help shift things up and let people try new things without introducing, hopefully, Grim Patron 2.0 is basically where the dust settles on that one.
Yeah. Wow. I think you nailed it. JR, anything you want to add to that?
I think Kevin pretty much summed it up. So cool. I know we got to end this.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and end it. We've had a long show this week. So thank you guys again so much for hanging out in the chat room. As always, you can find us live at twitch.tv/BlizzBro. We're hanging out. It's awesome. It's always fun to hang out with the chat room. And chat room exploded when they disagreed with us on this top 10 list. That was awesome to see. So thank you guys for hanging out in the chat and all that kind of stuff. We've also got some new Patreon and iTunes reviews. So let's go ahead and take a look at these really quick. Kev, you got Patreon stuff?
Yeah, according to the list I have in front of me here, we have 3 new patrons supporting the show that we're tremendously thankful for. So to Bradley F., Julio A., and Matt, thank you so much for supporting the show. It means a ton to us. The new rewards are going to be out really soon. That merch store is coming really quick, and we're really excited for you guys to see it.
Yep, absolutely. So close. Hopefully in the next week or two, for sure. And then we also have some 5-star reviews. Sadly, they were not 3 of them, so we did not get to see Girly Voice Kevin. But offer stands. 3 5-star reviews in a week, and Kevin reads them in a girl voice. JR, who do our 5-star reviews come from this week?
Yeah, we had 2 of them. Prickly pear, which doesn't sound good to eat at all. And BMAC2753. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. 5-star reviews help us out so much as a show and make us feel great. We just hit 50 this last week. So 55-star reviews in 24 weeks. So good job, guys. Thank you so much.
That's crazy.
And so glad that you guys enjoy the show enough to want to click a button and tell us why you love our show. So thank you guys so much again. Also, a huge shout out to Jake Buttineau. He's over at jakebuttineau.ca. He does our intro and outro music. All around awesome guy. He's always hanging out, chatting with us on Twitter and all that good stuff. And a big thank you to Dread Scythe at scythedesigns.com doing all of our vector work and stuff like that. It looks awesome every week. So thank you, sir. And yeah, awesome. I think that's about it before we have the shout-outs this week. Kev, any shout-outs, things you're up to this week?
I mean, for sure, I just wanted to say one extra thank you. I know we said it at the beginning of the show, but to both Cap'n Crunch for mentioning us in his interview leading into the Fireside finals this past weekend, as well as to community manager Worthune, Rob, working over at Blizzard, who gave us a really wonderful shout-out during the live stream of the Fireside Gathering Championship, which was really awesome. So both those guys just helping to signal boost and give us some praise that honestly feels incredible to get. So thank you so much, you guys. For myself this week, I am actually working on a really cool freelance piece that I'm hoping to link. You'll see it when it gets published. I'll badger it all over Twitter on how to watch competitive Hearthstone, how to get into it, how to follow the scene. So working away on that. Should have the first draft into an editor tomorrow. When it's ready for you guys, I will make sure you know where to find it.
Sorry, I had a geek out moment. I didn't know Captain Crunch was in the chat room. So great job, dude. Thanks again. We love you. Sorry. JR, what about you this week?
Same shout outs as Kevin, Captain Crunch, and Rob there. That was pretty awesome to see. Good job on the tournament. Sorry that you didn't get as far as we would have loved to have seen you go all the way to BlizzCon. But still, to get to that Final Four was amazing. Anyway, also I want to give a shout out to Wyatt Chang, who is a Diablo developer, who did I watched him stream all weekend, doing a 48-hour live stream of making a game during the Ludum Dare 33. They have 48 hours to create a game. He created this game called Candy Knocker, where you go trick-or-treating around. And it was really cool, and it really inspired me that I want to... I think in December when they do this, I'm going to create my own game as well in 48 hours and have it happen.
Awesome. That's great. Well, as always, guys, you can find us at patreon.com/wellmetpodcast, twitter.com/wellmetpodcast, youtube.com/blizzpro, iTunes, Stitcher, and all your favorite podcast outlets. And we will see you next week.
You can find John on Twitter at KickedTripod and on Twitch at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. You can find JR on Twitter at Eldorian and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And you can find Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism and on Twitch at twitch.tv/OdinTV. BlizzPro.com. Beyond Noob.
Player versus player versus player.